one around 40% before I resigned. The current one is growing, I think, this year at about 20%. Last year, about 40%. The year before that, about 40%. This year, we should do over $2 million. Last year, we did $1.85 million in our home inspection business. We do coach hundreds of home inspectors all across North America. The number one thing that we really focus on is the marketing process, but I think sometimes people miss the point that their home inspection is part of the marketing process. Actually, in reality, I think most inspectors kind of realize that, but unfortunately, they really kind of mess it up a little bit. That's just some of my wonderful family. Upper left is Krista, my oldest daughter. She runs everything. In the middle there is Jonathan and his amazing wife. Jonathan manages our local home inspection business. My youngest daughter there in the upper right hand is Elizabeth. The reason I put her up there is because she, as a teenager, answered our phones and was scheduling 9 out of 10 home inspections. And then there is my amazing wife, the bottom two photos, and me on stage there. Just because we're trying to work with a bunch of folks. All right, so let's dive in. Your report is what sets you apart from your competition. And by the way, I'm in Texas, and in Texas, we have a standardized report format that people tell me that we have to stay on top of and everything. And sometimes they think that that has somehow demeaned our report. It hasn't. And so don't worry about that if it comes into place, because what you say and how you say it, and even how you can take the original report format, if it ever comes into play for you, is not that big a deal. The question, though, is how does your report compare to what the client and who those who refer you, how does it compare to what they want? Okay. Now, the next part of that is what are you willing to spend to make sure that everybody that gets a copy of your report, whether it's new agents or mortgage companies or title companies and of course the listing agents, think about them on that side. How does that work for you? Now, one of the things I'm going to tell you is that most home inspectors don't understand the power of the fact that their report is going past them to other people. Okay? So many home inspectors go, I'm just worried about my buyer. And I want you to know, I absolutely am worried about how my buyer can see and understand everything as well. But what I've discovered is that I create my buyer a problem if my report doesn't make sense to the real estate agent and or other people involved, even the seller. And so I need to make sure my report makes great sense to the buyer, to the seller, to the real estate agents that are involved as well. Now, we're going to talk a little bit later about on-site versus later, or routine, or the notebook. Should you use a notebook during the report? Digital photos, if you should use those, how many should you use? Summary page, yes or no? Big debate in the industry over that. And I'm going to give you my answer on that and why we do with that. The inspection agreement, I'm going to try to talk with you about that. And then some magic words. Probably not going to get to those today. And macros, because we only have an hour. We only have 54 minutes left as I'm keeping an eye on the clock. So let me do this real quick. One thing is I did a report. I did this this talk a long time ago when I had more time to spare, and I had about 2 hours to work on it. And I want you to be able to go get our recording of it, and I want you to be able to go get our inspection agreement so you can kind of see some of the benefits of that process on that. With that said, I'm going to give you as much information as I can here, but I want you to be able to go out to reportblueprint.com, reportblueprint.com, and when you register out there, we're going to send you our inspection agreement, plus I'm going to give you a 2-hour version of this talk, and again, all of it is packed with information about your report. So let's dive in. You know, one of the things that happened years ago was I had not really planned on doing this class because I focused mostly on the marketing side. And then it was my oldest daughter there, Elizabeth, who, I'm sorry, Krista, that you saw in the upper left-hand corner. She said that this is marketing. Then this is one of the things that we needed to focus on. And so I thought, all right, so I'll send out a question. What's their number one question about reports and report writing? And I immediately got back about 300 questions. And I started grouping the questions into different places and into different kind of phases of the inspection and just trying to figure out, how to make sure I took care of everybody. And so what I've done here is I've kind of broken this down into some very simple patterns here to try to help you get some answers. And I'm going to give you the short version of the answer on all of these so we can try to move forward as quickly as we can. And then I want you to know that I'll be more than happy to answer additional questions down the road to see what we can do. One of the first questions that really came up was, is it profitable to take the report beyond the standards of practice? And the answer is no, it's not. Now, a lot of inspectors want to go above and beyond the standards of practice. And I want to tell you, I'm perfectly fine with that, but it is not a profitable situation in the sense that it actually will create you more problems than it will actually solve. Now, in your area, if it's normal or just customary to do something above and beyond the standards of practice, then great. Quite honestly, then you absolutely have to do that. Okay, but on the other hand, you want to stay as close to the standards of practice as you possibly can. Your real estate agents, your mortgage companies, all of those people are hoping that the report will be staying as close to the standards of practice. Even your buyer, once you get above and beyond the standards of practice, you start creating confusion for them. Now, here's one solution to help with this. If you regularly want to go above and beyond the standards of practice, that is to create your own standards of practice. Create the standards of practice for ABC Inspection Company, your company, and say, this is our standards of practice. Because one of the reasons this is not profitable to go above and beyond is because you now will put yourself at risk having said other things outside the standards of practice that open you up to a lot of liability. And you don't need to do that. So if you really need to go above and beyond the standards of practice on a regular basis, then create your own standards of practice. All right, so that's that first one. Next one, how often should I recommend a specialist? One of the things that I hear from real estate agents, mortgage companies, title companies, buyers, sellers, is that home inspectors have a tendency to refer to or recommend way too many specialists, okay? And if you do this, trust me, here's what will happen. The buyer will look at you some point and he will go, let me ask you one simple question. Why the heck did I hire you? I mean, you recommended a roofer, a plumber, an electrician, a heating and air conditioning specialist, a roofer. I could have just gone and hired a bunch of specialists if that's what I needed. And a lot of inspectors have a tendency to try to, refer to the specialist to try to get themselves out of the picture or get themselves out of the liability picture. And I'm going to tell you, that's part of what we're there for, is to tell people what we think, what we recommend. And if you're going to recommend a specialist over and over and over again, that's a problem. Here's the other thing that I will tell you with my report. One of the things that I try to do is recommend a heating and air conditioning person only once. If I say 6 things about the heating and air conditioning, I don't put in my report 6 times recommend a heating and air conditioning specialist. I put all those notes together and I recommend a heating and air conditioning specialist take a look at all of these items and any other items that they see that are in need of repair at the time that they're there, okay? So try to be very careful. I'm going to also put this to a number to you. Try never to recommend more than 3 specialists in any one given report, unless it's just the house from hell, okay? And yes, we all see those from time to time, so be very careful there. Try to keep it to no more than 3 specialists. And I'm going to tell you, I rarely recommend a plumber. I rarely recommend an electrician. Yes, there are occasions that I do, but it's rare. All right? Next question. How long can I continue to not email my report? Are you kidding me? I couldn't believe I even got this when I did this years ago. Man, if you're not emailing that report out just as quickly as possible, you are like dead in the water and you don't even realize it. Even if you're still doing handwritten reports, man, you should be pasting that into an email and getting that out to everybody just as quickly as you can. And I'm going to tell you, we literally produce our reports on site, and we email the report out to the buyer and out to their real estate agent even before we leave the house. Now, most home inspectors don't do their report until they leave or until that night or to the next day. And if that's the case, then that's fine, but you need to email it, and you need to email it just as quickly as you possibly can. Next question, how many pictures, if any? You should have at least 6 pictures in your report. I'm going to tell you any less, and the people think they've been cheated because they didn't get any pictures. And if you put, on average, by the way, the average inspector puts 30 plus photos in his report. And I'm going to tell you, agents think that's too many. Buyers in the long run will tell you, once they've seen and compared, that's probably too many. You just create a confusion factor there. And for those guys that put 100, 200, 300 photos in their report, I get it. And I have to tell you, I applaud those guys. But I don't have the time and the energy to put that many photos in there. And I'm also going to tell you there's a sweet spot in everything that we've learned to do over the 100,000 plus inspections that we do. So 6 is the minimum number of photos. 18 is about the maximum number of photos. 12 is a great sweet spot for the number of pictures or photos that we put into the report. Next question, cowboy English versus technical terms. Cowboy English is so much better than technical terms. If you want to say things like, free boards, go ahead. And then don't be surprised when they say, well, you spelled freeze wrong. And by the way, what is a freeze board? Okay? Because they don't know. It's a technical term. Just say wood trim. You're going to be so much better off in the long run with all of that. Next question, what software should I use and what hardware should I use? And I'm going to tell you, it doesn't matter which software or hardware you use. In the old days, we used to have a big old computer in our vans. Now most of our guys use laptops, and some people out there are using iPads and using all types of other things to try to make sure that they're taking care of business and everything. I mean, you can use your phone nowadays for it, and there are a lot of people out there that do that. I don't care which software you're using. I don't sell software. I do give my members a copy of our software, but it's basically a report that's written inside Microsoft Word, and so we give it to them for free, and you can use that. But there's some great people out there doing software, some great people. Carl Fowler with 3D is probably one of the oldest and most distinguished software providers out there. Dominic with Home Inspector Pro is a big company out there. And then there's a bunch of other companies out there. And there's a bunch of companies that have come and gone. And some people are still using the old versions of those. How long should my report be? Again, you're going to find that most home inspectors actually have at least 30 to 40 to 50 pages in their report. And the average out there is probably about 40 pages, maybe about 38 pages on average. That is much longer than my report. My report is very simple, very straightforward, and very easy to consume the information, okay? And I will tell you, buyers love that. They love that. And it's one of the things that we try to help make sure that we do is we keep our report as short as possible. However, we try to make sure it's long enough to cover all the information that the people need, which kind of brings me to the next question. How much information is too much and how much information is too little? The information's too much if it's just not needed, especially if it's outside the standards of practice. And I see a lot of people do that. And they'll even want to put in there everybody that attended the inspection report or attended the inspection. I get that. They want to talk about the weather. I get that. But you know what? We haven't put that kind of information on reports in years, and not once has that created us a problem. So it's too much information if it's not needed and if it's not creating you a problem by leaving it off, which kind of goes to how much is too little. Let me tell you, think about this. We do 4,000 to 5,000 inspections every single year. On average, that means we do about 400 inspections a month, okay? That's about the average number of inspections for a good inspector in a year. So in 30 days or so, I could literally see as many inspections as one inspector would see in 1 year. So what I learned was if there's not enough information in something, I will still get complaints just like an average inspector would, but I'll get it in a compressed time period. I might get it in a week. I might get it in a month. But I all of a sudden start realizing I don't have enough information in my report when I get 2, 3, 4 times in 1 month the same kind of question. And that's what made us kind of change our report and really kind of move it to what we have now. Very simple, very straightforward. So how much is too little? If I get 2 or 3 phone calls in a month, that's too little information, and we fix it. So one question, for instance, and this does go above and beyond the standards practice, but one question is, Mike, where are the GFCIs? And you know what? We put that in our report every single time now because it's a big question we get asked. And if the GFCIs are not working, we want to be able to look at the report and tell them where to go. All right. So how long should it take to write a report? A normal report. Now, this is very important because one of the things that I find is that most people take way too long to write a report. In fact, I can see the pain in their face. I can hear the pain in their voice when they talk about how long it takes them to write a report. And I'm probably just going to turn the knife on this a little bit and make it even worse for some of you, because it should only take you about half an hour to 45 minutes to write a report. But most people are trying to take 2 hours, 3 hours to write a report. And you know, if you really think you need to, and if you really want to, I understand. But you start adding those up, and you start calculating how much of your life gets spent writing reports. And if you can cut that time in half, from 2 hours to 1 hour, if you think about a year, that gives you 400 more hours of your life back. What can you do with 400 hours? If you did 400 inspections that year, that's a 400-hour benefit to you. It's happened as quickly as possible. Now, if I get a chance and we get to the right point here, I'll actually kind of go through the routine with you on writing the report, because that's where most people make a mistake. And I will tell you, by doing it on site, that speeds us up because we're very focused on getting the report out during that time. Next question, how much detail should I list for appliances, model number, serial number, age? I'm going to tell you, we used to never list any of that. Again, that was information way above and beyond. Now, with that said, I'm going to tell you that there are a couple of great companies out there now that help people search for recalls on the appliances. And so we do now actually take a look at the model numbers of the appliances, and we turn those in, and we check to see if there's any recalls happening there. RWS is one of the first companies that really came out with this. It's called Recall Check. We use them to check every single appliance for our buyers to see if there's any recalls out there. And if there are, then they're notified of that. But again, keep in mind, that goes above the standards practice. It's not required, but it would probably be something that really helps your inspection to a whole new level. Next question, should I do repair estimates or not? And I'm going to tell you, absolutely not, unless, okay, unless you're in the Miami area or parts of Oklahoma. Those are the only 2 areas I know. But the guys that started in the inspection business in those areas thought it was a really good idea to put estimates in. And so almost all home inspectors in the Miami area and parts of Oklahoma put estimates in their reports. So I call this an RSP, a required sales point. All right, it's not that I want to do it, but because almost everybody else does do it, I need to build that in and try to make sure that I have that all taken care of. How do I handle cosmetic issues? So here's a short story. You know, somebody asked, you know, oh, that wallpaper is pulling off the wall. Will you put that in the report? Now, most home inspectors would say no, but I'm going to teach you something that my dad taught me. The answer is always yes, but then you just have to explain to people the consequences of what happens when you do something. So I can say, sure, I could put that in the report for you if you would like. However, when your agent gets the report and she passes it on to the listing agent and it goes to the seller, they're going to look at me. They're going to look at the note that I put in here about this cosmetic item, and they're going to use that against you. They're going to tell you that, well, the inspector was picky and he really went above and beyond the standards of practice, and he started putting cosmetic items in. And so if he started picking there and listed cosmetic items, now the important things like the heating and air conditioning that I've told you about that I'm going to list in the report, they're going to tell you that probably isn't important either. My suggestions are write down all the cosmetic items that you see, and I'm going to tell you we're not even trained to look for cosmetic items like wallpaper that pulls off, and write all those down and go over those with your agent completely separate. And then I'll ask him very simply, so do you really want me to put it in the report? Because if you can, I would, but I wouldn't recommend it. And so at that point, 99% of them go, you know what, you're right, I can make a list of those and I'll talk with the agent. So let's make sure you focus on the big items. That's a big thing about cosmetic issues. The answer is yes, but then explain to them the consequences, and almost always they'll decide that they don't need them. All right, what about writing up borderline defects like vibrating ceiling fans or chips in tubs, okay? I'm going to tell you, I kind of mentioned it already, I'm here in London, and there is a chip in my bathtub, okay? And I can see the metal underneath, and I thought to myself, wow, how interesting, all right? And yet it isn't stopping me from using the bathtub or taking a bath or a shower or anything else. Now, there's not a ceiling fan here in the room, but if there were a ceiling fan here in the room and it were vibrating, I would be thinking to myself, I'm absolutely writing that up. And the difference is, if I don't write up vibrating ceiling fans, I get calls back and complaints. If I don't write up small chips in tubs, nobody really cares. And I explain to them, that's a cosmetic item, and they seem to understand. The next question, should I mention positives? I think it's a great idea to mention positives, but I don't think I would put them in a report. In fact, one of the things that I would highly suggest that you do is that, try to find at least 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 positive things to say about the home. But again, you don't have to put it into the report, and you don't want to make a big deal about it being something, a positive item. It's great to mention it, and I'll give you one example. Let's say they have a masonry fireplace instead of a metal insert fireplace. It's great to mention, hey, this is an upgrade, and I thought I'd mention that you have a masonry fireplace, and it's looking very good. All the pieces and everything here work, and show them the damper, show them all that stuff, and say, so I just want to let you know you have an upgrade here. But don't go too deep with that. All right. So here's one last question, and I'm moving very fast, as you can tell, and then I want to get into the next pieces of this. And so I'm keeping an eye, we're 25 minutes in. So the question here is, can I just email the report, or do I need to make a hard copy of the report as well? And I'm going to tell you, a lot of inspectors nowadays, simply email the report to people. And you know what? I'm perfectly fine with that in certain parts of the country. If you're in Silicon Valley of California, they look at you like you just grew, a left arm, a second left arm, when you print off a report and hand it to them. And they think you're just terrible. You're killing the environment by wasting paper and everything else. And I kind of get that. On the other side, if you do that in Kansas or Tennessee or parts of Texas, including parts that I live in, and you just email it to them and you don't give them a copy of the report, well, they feel kind of cheated, and they don't appreciate the fact that you weren't willing to go to the step to print out a hard copy of the report. So here's one of my biggest secrets on this. So do I email the report, or do I make a hard copy? And the answer is both. I do both. I email the report to the agent and to the buyer, and there's a big secret in our home inspection agreement that we use to make sure we have permission to send the report to the buyer and to their agent, okay? But then I also print off the report and go over the report with them. So that's kind of a cool thing. Now, if we have some time, we'll try to make sure we can take some questions as well towards the end here. And Ben, if you're still there, that would be wonderful, and maybe you can help me understand how to see a couple of questions, and we'll try to get to a couple of those at least by the end as well.
Sure, Mike.
All right, so here's another mistake that might, thank you, Ben. You are still there, aren't you?
I am.
All right, wonderful. Are we doing okay so far? Am I coming across loud and clear?
Yeah. And just a reminder to everyone, if you have a question for Mike, you can type it into your little text box there. Thanks, Mike.
You betcha. Thank you so much, Ben. All right, so I have to tell you, I love my competition. And I tell my members all the time, I love your competition, because home inspectors have really forgotten why we exist, okay? Our job is to help mitigate the liability. The reason our industry was created was to help mitigate the liability that the real estate agents were taking on during the inspection process or during the home sale process. And so our job is to make sure that we give people a really good, solid idea of the condition of the house without trying to do a lot of CYA or, and I'm sorry, but for young people, that means cover your ass, okay? You don't want to try to be really silly on that. You want to be very straightforward. The problem sometimes is that people take it to a degree they don't need. So the one person said this into me, and they said, Mike, you need to make sure you tell this to everybody. And so what he wanted to do was he wanted me to put a phrase in there, recommend, and he really wanted me to say, recommend all repairs are made prior to closing. Ouch. Okay? That is not our job as a home inspector. Our job is not to tell them to get everything fixed. Our job is to point out what is in need of repair at the time of our inspection. And so be very careful how you get pushed into some of that stuff. All right, I'm looking at the clock. We're 30 minutes in. Let's see what we can do to get into some of this. On-site versus later, your routine, the notebook and the booklet, digital photos, the summary page, inspection agreement, magic words. Who knows? Maybe we'll get to some of that. Macros and shortcuts to success. So one of the things that people ask all the time is, Mike, which is better, a narrative report or a checklist report? And the answer is both. You know, I had somebody ask me the million-dollar question one time, Mike, do you want more money in your bank account or do you want more money in your wallet? And I think I got the answer wrong. I think I said bank account. And he got up in my face and he went, wrong. And I went, wow. And I said, wallet? And he went, wrong. And he said, you want both. And I started thinking about that. You know, it's true with a lot of things in life. So I want the speed of a checklist report, but I also want the ability to be able to say as much as I need to in my report. So we move and we set our report up to be dynamic so we can add as much information as we want during the report. Here's the other thing, on-site versus later. And you already know I am definitely in favor of on-site reports. Here's the good news for some of you. More and more inspectors are doing it after the inspection. They're not doing their report on site. When I first started, everybody did their report on site. But as we became computerized and everything else, less and less inspectors are doing them on site. Less and less inspectors every year are doing their reports on site, to the point that this becomes a unique selling point. And if you see at the bottom of the slide there, it says speed and accuracy. That is what people are really willing to pay the big dollars for, speed and accuracy. The faster you can deliver that report, the more accurate it is, the more they're willing to pay you for your services. And the main reason inspectors don't deliver on site is because of time, okay? Or they don't know how to do it effectively. So let's talk about the routine here just a little bit. And I don't have a slide for this, so listen very carefully. One is you want to arrive early. We teach our members to arrive 30 minutes early. You're going to inspect 4 things on the outside of the house. You're going to look at the foundation, you're going to look at the roof, you're going to look around the outside of the house, and you're going to get your report started right then and there. So you're going to start the report early. And then what I teach inspectors, and we have about 16 inspectors now, and what Jonathan, my oldest son, is teaching the inspectors, is that we start in the kitchen. See, most inspectors want to start in the basement or they want to start elsewhere. I understand that. That's perfectly fine. That's probably what is best for you. What I try to ask myself is what's best for my client. Okay? And so I start in the kitchen so that they can see me do the appliances, the electrical, the plumbing, to take a look at the walls and some windows maybe even. And by the time I'm done with the kitchen, they're going, wow. In fact, Ben, if you want to, I know I did a kitchen inspection at one point, and we put that out at nachi.tv, and you can tell everybody maybe how they can get a copy of my kitchen inspection. Because when I finish the kitchen, they're sitting there going, wow, what a great thing. Now, as soon as I finish the kitchen, I put some notes into the report. Then I head to the master bedroom and master bathroom, and on the way there I turn the heat or the air conditioning on, and then once I'm done with the master bedroom, master bathroom area, I'll check either the heat or air conditioning depending on what time of year it is. In the winter time, I'm checking the heat. In the summertime, I'm checking the air conditioning. And then I go put some notes in the report. Then I go look at the rest of the bedrooms and the other bathroom and probably the living room. And then I go put some notes in the report. Then I go take a look at the rest of the house, any areas that I haven't gotten to. I go take a look at the garage. And then I go put some notes in the report. And then I go to the attic and take a look at the attic, and I take another walk around the outside of the house, and then I go put some more notes in the report. So here's the biggest secret about doing the report on site. See, the best, most efficient way to do the report on site is to do the whole inspection and then sit down and do the report. But it's not the most effective way to do the inspection and the report. What you need to do, because people cannot wait for you, will not mentally, emotionally wait for you 30 minutes or 45 minutes to type up a report, even if you're that quick. So if you go through the whole inspection and then do your report and it's taking you 30 minutes, watch, about 20 minutes in, they're going to ask you, how much longer are you going to be? And you don't want that to happen. So the best way to do it is the way I just described, is you do little pieces of the report as you're going. And you're taking 5, 10, no more than 15 minutes to work on the report at any point during the inspection. And then when you're done, then you're going to say to them, you know what, I only have a couple of little things I need to add to the report. Is there anything especially that you've seen that we haven't talked about yet? And there almost always is. And then go take a look at that, finish up your report, and then print it off for them. All right, next part, the notebook or the booklet. Your service is completely invisible, guys. And so what you hand your clients is not. It can't be. One of the best things that InterNACHI ever created was a great book that you can give to your clients at the time of inspection. My suggestion is give it to them at the beginning of the inspection so they can be reading through it, just taking notes on it, and getting some ideas about things. It'll keep their mind busy while you're doing the inspection report. I know Ben can also tell us the name of that book, and he could probably even tell you how you can go out to the inspector outlet and order that book from InterNACHI. It's very inexpensive, and it also just gives you more thumb value for your home inspection as well. So that's another great tool that you can use out there. Digital photos. You know, you probably already figured out that I want you to have photos. In fact, you need to know this. 90+% of all home inspection reports now have photos built into the report. If you don't have photos, you're so far behind everybody else. It's a huge problem. And I'm going to tell you, I didn't put photos in my report for a long time, and one of my competitors did, and they beat the living socks off of me because they had photos and I didn't. Turns out everybody wants photos. Now, where do you put the photos? Most people want to put the photos in the report as you're going next to the comment. And you know what? I understand that. But I don't do that. I put all the photos at the end of the report because it helps me be able to space out my report better. I don't use as much paper, and I can look at all the photos all together with the folks. Now, it's just as good to put it in the report, and people probably like it just as much, if not better, but I don't do that, and so take it from there. But there are also some good photos you can put in. Take a picture of the bathtub, that circulating bathtub, while it's running, and put that in the report. I cannot tell you the number of times somebody moved into the house, called me, and said, you didn't check the circulating bathtub, did you? And I go, well, what makes you say that? Because we moved in and it doesn't work. And I love to be able to open up the report and say, look at page 14 here, or 15 here, and you see that photo of the bathtub full of water with the circulating tub running, and they go, oh, it did work while you were here. Huh, I wonder what happened. And so that gets rid of that problem. Take a picture while you're on the roof. Take a picture while you're in the attic. Take a picture of some of the appliances or whatever you need so you can do that. All right? Now, the big issue out there, summary page. Do you do a summary page or not? And I'm going to tell you that I think more and more people are leaning towards the summary page, but it is a huge debate in our industry. And so many people want to go, no, no, absolutely not. No summary page. Too much liability. They won't read the rest of the report. And I'm going to tell you, they make excuse after excuse after excuse of why they don't want to do a summary page. I've been doing a summary page from the very beginning when it was just me and my dad as inspectors out there. And then we made this big transition as the real estate agents started saying, hey, Mike, you've got 50 items on here, 60 items on here in need of repair. Can you kind of like put all the ones that are together for plumbing and all the ones for the electrical together? And so we realized that was a big change for us. So we started putting headings. I know this sounds simple nowadays, but it wasn't back then. So we started putting, like structural items, and then heating and air conditioning items, and then plumbing, and then electrical. And people will ask me sometimes, well, Mike, a water heater, does it belong under appliances or does it belong under plumbing? And I ask a simple question. Who would fix it? Okay? Oh, a plumber fixed that. So water heaters, they're going to go under plumbing. But you have all the items. Here's the other cool thing. By us breaking it up, now instead of saying 60 items that need a repair, there's 10 maybe up here under structural, counting wood rot and chimney and the garage door. Okay? And then there's like 2 or 3 under heating and air conditioning. Then there's like 4 or 5 under electrical and 4 or 5 under plumbing, and then maybe a couple of under appliances and different things. So instead of 60 notes, it only looks like, well, we have a few here, a few here, a few here. It really minimizes the overall fear factor for people when you break it down by systems and do that direction. And by the way, do it by systems, not by rooms. Nobody wants to hear how to fix things by rooms. I know that that's how some inspectors inspect, and I kind of appreciate that, but it does not how they want the report written up. Okay? All right. Inspection agreements. And by the way, one of the things that I mentioned was we're going to give you our inspection agreement for free because we've added a couple things over the years to help protect ourselves and to help make sure that we can make the whole inspection process go smoother. So inspection agreement basics, who do you have permission to deliver the report to? When I tell people we deliver the report to the agent, the first thing out of their mouth a lot of times is, oh, you don't have permission to send that report to the agent. And I look at them and I go, of course I do. And they went, no, you don't. And I go, what makes you say that? And they explained it to me, and I said, well, in my inspection agreement, we have this one little phrase that takes up 2 lines that says distribution of report. And it says I have the right to send the report to the agent. And I go, oh, well, when you say it that way, yeah, I guess maybe you do. But it's amazing how they jump to the conclusion you don't have permission to deliver the report to the agent. And you want to make sure you put those 2 lines in your inspection agreement to get that done. There's a lot of other things we put in our inspection agreement. We actually have 2 sheets now, one that it kind of explains the inspection of what we're going to do and what we're not going to inspect. So in our inspection agreement, it actually shows a lot of what we don't inspect. And then, of course, there's a lot of disclaimers in the report itself, and therefore I don't have to have them all in the inspection agreement. But I will tell you, all of this is about preventative planning and follow through to make sure that people kind of understand what we do and what we don't. Now, I mentioned earlier, we'll give you a free copy of our inspection agreement. All you got to do is go out and register at reportblueprint.com, reportblueprint.com. Also, out there, when you go through, is a 2-hour version of this talk, and I go a lot more in depth about what to say and what not to say, what to add on your report, what not to add on your report. I'm giving you the Cliff's Note version of this so that you have it here for you today, but I want to make sure that you have that. All right, let's get into some of the magic words. There are bad magic words, okay, out there. Most people have taught inspectors to use the word appears or monitor. I want you to know every time a real estate agent hears the word appears or monitor, they start thinking that you're doing CYA language. And we already said what that was earlier, so I'm not going to go there again. So it appears. They hate that. Agents think one of 2 things when they see that. One is either you're new and you don't know what you're doing and you just learned it in school, or 2, you've been around so long you're just trying to cover yourself to prevent liability. And they don't want to see that word. I was amazed when I learned this from the real estate agents. Now, before I'm done with the next slide here, I'm going to tell you there's a better phrase to use that will help make sure that you don't have to go through that problem. So, you know what? I apologize. This is in the middle here. I'm going to skip right through this, but Report Blueprint does have an offer out there, so you can get a copy of our inspection agreement and a copy of all the other pieces as well. And I'm just going to skip through this real quick. We do give you a copy of our inspection agreement and a copy of all the other pieces there as well. I pulled up this from a different presentation I did years ago. One second as we go through all of this here. So there's a number of bonuses, and also you get our Big Bang Marketing, our Report Blueprint, our business card makeover, our brochure makeover, all of that, plus some other bonuses that you can have to help move yourself forward. There you go. So much for all of that. Let's get into this, though. Magic words. These are some of my favorite parts of this whole part of the Report Blueprint. And years ago, when I only had about 4 or 5 inspectors, I started teaching them that there were certain words that if they used, it would help limit their liability and actually give us a little wiggle room as we needed. One of those words was help. And in the word help, what I want you to understand is that every time that we talk about water penetration, we wanted to simply say the word help in front of prevent. So you might say, this needs caulking and grouting to prevent water penetration. But add the word help to that. We want to we want to add caulking and grouting here between the windows and the exterior brickwork to help prevent water penetration. It was a major word that made everything a little bit easier in the whole process. There's another word that I like as well, and that word is percentages. Now, here's the thing is, this is never used in the report. But people will ask you a lot of times, you know, let's just take one example. Mike, you said that there was a water leak in the area of the master bath shower. Is that coming from the shower pan? And, you know, you need to be careful how you answer that. One of the ways that I love to answer that is to say, you know, since we saw so much water coming from the shower, it's a good chance, probably about 75+% chance that the water is coming either from the shower pan, if there's a shower pan there, okay? And some showers don't have shower pans, and I just tell them that, okay? Or it's possible, see how all the cracks there between the brickwork and everything? It's, you know, you got a 20+% chance that it's actually coming from the water hitting the brick, not the brick, I'm sorry, the tile, and going between the tiles and then getting down inside, and the water's coming from there. So that would be one area that you definitely need to make sure that you get fixed. There's a 5% chance that it's actually coming from the plumbing inside the wall. Sometimes they put on a new shower head, and they just didn't quite get it set up properly, and there may be a leak inside the wall there from the plumbing. And I'm going to tell you there's a 5% chance that it's coming from somewhere else besides the shower. Now, keep in mind that if you add all that up, 75, 25, and 5, that's like 105% chance, okay? But I explained to them that what percentage chance of where it's coming from. And I will tell you, I answer in percentages based on, you know, experience as a home inspector, what their question is a lot of times, and it has really helped me get that across to them better. And I will tell you, people love percentages. All right, next word, mainly. This is a great word as well, mainly. They will say, one of the things we used to write up is there's poor drainage around the house, okay? Recommend this be corrected to help, okay? Notice the word help there, to help prevent foundation movement. And that worked out really well until somebody got really nutsy on us, and some engineer and some drainage company was going, well, yeah, but you got poor drainage over here, and you got poor drainage in the front of the house, and he didn't say anything about that. What about that? And I'm going to tell you, it got really nasty, and we ended up writing a check for about $3,000 to get out of that situation and fix that situation. And that was when it was that one thing that really made me start looking at all this. And so one of the things we started saying was there's poor drainage mainly along the rear of the house. recommend this be corrected to help, recommend this be corrected to help prevent future foundation movement. And then if they call and go, well, Mike, you've got drainage up here along the front or along the side that you didn't mention, I go, absolutely, we know that. But what we're trying to tell you is this is the main area, and if you'll fix this main area, that will help prevent, future foundation movement. If you want to fix those other areas, great, that's fine. But they weren't really of enough of a concern for us to put them in the report. And that made those questions go away, and I love that. Now, here's something. Most home inspectors want to use north, south, east, or west in reports. I hate north, south, east, and west. Turns out 25% of the population is directionally challenged, including me, okay? But the real problem was when I went out to a house, we wrote up that there was a crack in the brickwork and the foundation on the west side of the house, and we went out, and the agents and everybody were there, and they called us back out saying, we can't find what you're talking about here. And we went out, and they're standing on the east side of the house. And I said, hey, guys, let us show you this problem over here on the west side of the house. They go, oh, that's the west side of the house. Yeah, right. So that wasted about 4.5 hours of our time because it was me, my dad, and my brother-in-law all went back to go look at the house with them. It was half an hour there. It was half an hour back. We spent half an hour at the time of the house. And so now one of the things that I try to do is make sure that our inspectors use different phraseology. We never use north, south, east, or west. You'll never see it on one of my reports. We'll say the front of the house, the rear of the house, the garage side of the house, the bedroom side of the house. Or if I have to, I'll say the side of the house with the air conditioning unit. Or I'll say side of house, see photo if I have to. Okay, but I won't use north, south, east, and west. The next one took me almost 10, 15 years to really put together. Remember how I told you agents hate the word appears? This next replaces it appears. And this next phrase can be used to write up everything in the home inspection process here. So write this one down, save this one. If you get nothing else from this call, this verbiage right here is probably the most powerful note in the whole thing that I'm trying to get across to you today. And write this down. There are indications of blank evident by blank. There are indications of movement in the foundation evident by cracks between this and this, okay? There are indications of water penetration in the house evident by carpet tack strip that are water stained or wood rot, okay? So by saying this, is you get away from the word appears, and the agents love this phraseology. So this is one of the things that I created after hearing inspector after inspector after inspector calling me. And we used it for one major one, and that was a shower leak, okay? There are indications of, and we actually used to say indications of past water leaks evident by the carpet tack strip that is water damaged or something like that. But we found out it works for everything. Cool. I hope and so glad we got to that one on the call today. Next one, recommend versus repair. You can say repair this, repair this, repair this. I'm going to tell you the agents hate hearing the word repair, repair, repair. Okay? So I like to use recommend this be corrected. Recommend this be corrected. Okay? To help prevent future whatever it is that you want to put in there. And I will tell you that goes over so much better in the inspection report. Every now and then I will tell you we still use the word repair, and so we do that. The next part is not visible. When things are not visible, I want you to write this phrase down. Unable to, boy, my brain went blank there for a second. Unable to see inside the walls is basically what I'm trying to say. And I'll come back to it here in just a second. But for instance, one of the things that we used to write up is unable to determine condition of underlying materials. There it goes. Just had a brain slip up there for a second, okay? So unable to determine condition of underlying materials. So let's say we looked at the master bath or the hallway tub shower, and it needs caulk grout repair, for between the tiles and because there's gaps there and everything. At some point, somebody's going to go out and go, oh, well, you can't just caulk and grout that. You need to replace all this tile. And there's probably mold on the sheetrock, and the sheetrock's probably water damaged, and the wood's probably water damaged underneath, and we're going to have to replace all of that. And you know what? He's probably right. But the truth is it doesn't really need to be done. So you need to make sure, though, when somebody pushes that button to sell that kind of work, that you can say, in your phraseology, unable to determine condition of underlying material. So here's one of the secrets. Anytime you write up water damage, anytime you write up wood rot, whether it's around the chimney on the roof, okay, or the chimney enclosure on the roof, or whether it's wood siding or wood trim, by adding unable to determine condition of underlying materials is one of the biggest things that has helped me be able to tell people, you know, I just can't see inside walls. I can't tell you what's behind all of this. And it's possible when they pull it all off, it's going to be worse than what it is that we're seeing right now. So that's a big one on not visible. The other one is on past problems. If there's past problems, I want to try to make sure that people realize that we saw it and we understand that there was a past problem. In Texas, for instance, where I'm from, we're required to notate if the roof has been repaired. And by the way, sometimes that's very difficult to determine. But if you go up there and you can tell the roof's been repaired here or here, just spot repaired or patched, we have to write that up. And I will tell you also, because of showers, where they fixed the shower because it's leaked in the past, but they didn't replace the carpet tack strip in the, let's say, the master bedroom closet. Some carpet guy is going to go in, he's going to pull up the carpet, and he's going to see that, and he's going to go, wow, hey, do you know your shower leaks? And if we don't tell them that we saw that and we tested it, and that there was indications of a past water leak from the shower, however, it's not leaking at this time, we're going to get a phone call. And so past problems is a great thing to write up. All right, so the last thing on the magic words is the 6th grade reader level. Don't say evaporative coils or condenser coils or capillary tubes or freeze boards, which I talked about earlier. Use simple terms like outside air conditioning unit, inside air conditioning unit, wood trim. All of those work much better as magic words instead of trying to be really fancy or technical with your report. All right. The last thing I want to mention here really is macros. One of the things that I have developed, and most home inspectors have a set of macros or canned statements that they use on a regular basis. Some people call boilerplates, and you absolutely want to create that. All the good software out there lets you create that. We created in Microsoft Word using autocorrect in our report. It's very simple. You can go in and set up autocorrect so that you can change different little pieces. You can change three letters into a whole phrase, and so it works out well. And here's the other thing is, most people have like thousands of boilerplates. We have kept our macro keys, our magic phrases, down to less than 300 or around 300 phrases. And that has worked very well for us. And on foundations, it also helps us training other inspectors. Hey, choose between note number 1, note number 2, number 3, or number 4. It's that simple. Instead of and it helps us with consistency across the board with all of our inspectors. It also helps make sure that you don't have to wonder what to say. It also helps you with speed and accuracy. Now, I'm going to tell you, my dream team members, my coaching members, get a copy of mine for free. And when you go out to reportblueprint.com, if you decide you want to invest in our Big Bang Marketing, if you decide you want a copy of all of my macro keys and everything, you can get that, and that will go, we'll send that to you as well. And I think we charge $49.97 for that, and then 2 payments of $297, and then you can read all that, and it'll tell you all of those things there. All right. Well, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Ben, we have a few minutes left. What kind of questions do we have?
We do have. We have indications of inspectors with questions, evident by the questions that I see.
You phrased that well.
Thanks. let's see. Richie asks, will this webinar be recorded for future viewing? Yes, it will. Steve asks, do you, since you do reports on site, doesn't that actually just make the inspection take longer?
Not any longer than it would take for me to do the inspection on site and then go home and type it up. Okay, so I don't spend any more time. It does take us probably about 30 minutes longer than if we didn't do the report on site. But that 30 minutes is not felt by anybody. And when our inspectors get home, after we've hired and trained inspectors to do this, about 3 months in, I get this phone call from somebody going, you know what, I've just been realizing every night when I get home, I'm actually done for the day. And I've never had that before. And I just wanted to call you and tell you thank you. And so it's one simple, straight thing that's really helped us with all of that. And so does it take us a little bit longer? Yeah. Does it take me longer in the scope of everything? Not really. I hope that helps.
Yep. And so we have actually a lot of questions that are off topic, like, do you have any tips on hiring inspectors, where to find them? What is your take on real estate agents acquiring inspection licenses? Should I ask a homeowner for a recommendation on my site? So we do actually have some questions that are off topic that I will forward to Mike. But John has a question about, you mentioned that we should not refer to a specialist too often in the reports. But doesn't this conflict with the ultimate point of the inspection report, I'm paraphrasing, where you give direction to your client about fixing the problems and recommending either a plumber, electrician, a roofer per item? It's kind of a balance.
It is a balancing act. The problem is that, yes, if we can't really give them our opinion, for instance, if the foundation is moved beyond the scope of our inspection, yeah, we're going to recommend, a foundation specialist or an structural engineer. We're going to recommend that, even though there's no real such animal as a structural engineer. But that's important to make those kind of recommendations. But also, I think too many inspectors, especially younger ones, have gotten to the point where they don't want to take any responsibility or liability whatsoever. Oh, there's a water leak underneath the kitchen sink. Recommend a plumber for this. Are you kidding me? That's a ridiculous, recommendation for a plumber. And so we have to get closer to being a real, person with real information instead of just, oh, recommend this or recommend that. And the agents, the real estate agents, really want to recommend people that can give real opinions, not just, CYA language on things. Does that help, Ben?
Yep. Can you stay for another 2 minutes for one more question?
I'm more than happy to stay as long as you need me to, sir.
So Hans asks, how long in average does it take to do an inspection, and what software do you use? So when I was an inspector, I scheduled an 8 o'clock and a 12 o'clock inspection. So that gave me 4 hours per inspection with a little travel time in between. So about 3 hours total I could spend at the home. I tried to get there early. But what really made a difference was when we went mobile. So Mike, what do you think about mobile devices, inspecting and using a mobile device, and using a mobile device to write this report while you're doing the inspection?
And I love this question. And I will tell you, as we started hiring other inspectors, we had to figure this out a little more sophisticated. And my dad and I came up with a formula that I'm sure other inspectors came up with as well. But we came up with the formula that takes about an hour per 1,000 square feet to do the inspection, with an hour and a half to 2 hour minimum. So when we see a house that's 2,000 square feet, we tell them it's going to take us about 2 to 2.5 hours to do the inspection, and we're going to give you the report as soon as we're done. If it's 3,000 square feet, we're going to tell them it's going to take us about 3 to 3.5 hours to do the inspection. If it's a 7,000 square foot home, we know it's going to take us about 7 hours to do the inspection, approximately. And so by having that calculation, that worked out well for us. And you're absolutely correct. with the more mobile devices, that speeds up the report. My mother-in-law wanted her home inspected at one point because she was selling it, and she wanted to be able to get everything fixed so she could move through the selling process faster. And I haven't really done a lot of inspections. I go on maybe one or two a year now just to kind of keep a feel for it. So I called Jonathan and I said, Jonathan, I want you to go with me on this report. And knowing that, of course, it's faster to do the report after you do all of the inspection, and this was my mother-in-law, and I wasn't charging her anything. You know, I went through and did the whole inspection, and then I turned to Jonathan and said, all right, we just need to sit down and type up the report. And I got the strangest look for him. And he had been carrying his tablet next to him the whole time with a little strap around his shoulder. And he said, are you kidding me? I've been typing up the report as we've been going through the home. And so, yeah, the mobile devices do speed this up tremendously, especially when you use it right.
Mike, I want to thank you very much for being with us. We learned a lot, and I know you have a lot more to share and provide to inspectors who are interested in it. And, I was just in California. You mentioned California and the options of printing or emailing the report. And I actually saw a guy with two left arms. So he must have been one of those inspectors who printed the report in California. He was my barista, actually. I went to a coffee shop. He was so fast making coffee. So, Mike, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking your time out in London. Amazing. Send us pictures. And everyone, if you need to ask questions, I can transfer them to Mike, or you can send them to Mike directly. And the webinar will be recorded and be available on natchi.org. I'll send everybody an email to remind you where to get the recording and where to send questions or contact Mike if you want some further help with your business. And again, thank you, Mike, and thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you so much. Talk to you again soon, Ben.
Bye, Mike.
Bye-bye.